Look, shawty, it's a Look, shawty, it's a bomb in the building. When I link with you, nothing else matters. What you trying to do? I got me some time.
All right, Cornelius. What's the chances of us making this quick? I am exhausted.
No promises, sir. We have much to do.
Pull up the first one.
Big Doobie has released new music, sir. It appears his recent call-out has triggered the appropriate response.
Doobie's record. Yeah, man. Look, I heard it. You know, it's what I expected. You know what I mean? Doobie just needed a push. You know what I mean? These people taking pot shots at him. It's probably not a good idea to let people get away with that. And he came in and handled his business. You know what I mean? Faked the rhythm beat, which is a popular one right now, and kind of did his own thing. And like I said, I mean, among the I guess the diss tracks, the bars that kind of came out of this, I don't know, diss extravaganza, he definitely had the best. You know what I mean? Like the dude's a monster, and like I said, the Juice Cat I think was just punching out of his weight class, and listen, I will give him some advice. Look, dude, I think you're talented, man. Like I said, the Stop Sign record is really good, but like you got to put out more music first of all. You know what I mean? People need to be able to go through a body of work, go through a catalog. You know what I mean? And the other thing is, lyrical fisticuffs may not be for you. You know what I mean? The lyrical battleground. Not saying that you can't do it, just maybe that you can't do it right now. You know what I mean? I'll tell you a quick story. When I first started rapping for myself, I used to, smoke and, rap on the block or rap in the car, whatever it was. And I remember one of the first raps that I tried to spit. I mean, it was, it was rudimentary. It was the first one. It was broken. It was shattered. It was in pieces. But anyway, down the street from me lived a producer named Knots Raw. If you're from Virginia, you might know who that is. And at the time, I was going through an Asher Roth phase. You know what I mean? So what ended up happening was Knots Raw and Asher Roth did a joint project. All right. And on that project is a song called Enforce the Law. And on that song, great song, by the way, Knots Raw spit a verse. And that verse is an exact word for what I did in the car that day. All right. So basically, Knots stole my bars. And like I said, he'll deny it, which is fine. Like I'll thank him for it because it was a valuable lesson for me. But at the end of that song, there's a Jay-Z sample, a Jay-Z clip, and it says that, "Hey, little soldier, you ain't ready for war." And I understood that. And basically, it was that I wasn't ready to defend myself lyrically. You know what I mean? I wasn't quite up to par on the beats just yet. You know what I mean? And that might be where you are. You know what I mean? Not that you can't make good music, but if you're gonna try to rap with the big dogs, I'd kind of shy away from that currently. You know what I mean? I'd probably go vegan for about 6 months. You know what I mean? Nothing but Impossible Burgers for a while. All right, and no more beef, bro. And like I said, just put out music, put out a project. You know what I mean? And one thing I've noticed about Arizona is Arizona doesn't want to put out bodies of work. And I personally think that Arizona doesn't do that because it kind of, it's an easy way to tell who, I guess is actually good at making music. You know what I mean? When you go through somebody's, 7, 10, 12, 15 track project, and you kind of get an idea of how many tracks are good, it will give you an idea of how good the artist is. You know what I mean? So if somebody makes, say, 12 songs and they can only give you, 3 or 4 slaps off of it, maybe you got some, maybe you don't. You know what I mean? But you have to put out a catalog so that not only that other people can go through it, but so that you can kind of understand it. You know what I mean? Like I put out a large amount of songs before I got to the point and kind of worked up to where, hey, man, if I put out 10 songs, 7 of them at least are going to be bangers. You know what I mean? So that's why I always say put out music and try to put out projects. I'm not saying you have to put out like a thematic, a cohesive project from top to bottom. Like when you get started, just put out songs. You know what I mean? And try to group them together. You know what I mean? So you can kind of get an idea of what you got. All right. But like I said, trying to rapidy rap with some of these guys may not be in the cards for you at this present time. You know what I mean? But yeah, you know what I mean. Coming full circle, that's kind of what I expected for Doobie to do. You know what I mean. He got his head. You know what I mean. I told him that he needed to. You know what I mean. Take a head off, and like I said, some people just need a push, man. You know, I get it. Life be life, and sometimes, and it can be. I don't want to say hard, but sometimes getting into the booth and rapping just for the love of the game can sometimes be tedious. You know what I mean? And so I get it. But like I said, I'm glad that he got in there and he did something. I do know now that I guess it's J-Hound is just going nuts. You know what I mean? Fucking spazzing out on the internet. I don't know if I want to see a bunch of disses back and forth. You know, what I would say is, yo, how about both of y'all put out projects and let's just listen to music. You know what I mean? I'm hoping Doobie's working on Big Cactus too. You know what I mean? And then whatever J Hound's got coming, you know, hopefully that'll come promptly. You know what I mean? I mean, because now's the time to do it. You know what I mean? Everybody's talking about this, you know, rehashed Doobie J Hound thing. Yo, if I'm J Hound, put out the music. You know what I mean? You say you're better than this guy, show and tell time. You know what I mean? But yeah, the fucking, you know, clips back and forth on the internet, like after a while, that's gonna get very lame. You know what I mean? So let's get to the music. You know what I mean? You ain't gotta be full out disses. You know, a couple of jabs here and there. But you know what I mean? Have both people just put out whatever they were gonna put out for the year. You know what I mean? I don't know if Doobie is putting out Big Cactus 2 or whatever project he's got coming. That is one thing about Doobie. Doobie's on that that Kendrick Lamar timetable. You know what I mean? You get an album every 5 years or some shit like that. Not, you know what I mean? I don't like that too much, but it is what it is. You know what I mean? How he handles his business is up to him. But you know, like I said, when music comes out, you can kind of tell who's like that and who's not. So if one person says that they're better than another, prove it. You know what I mean? I mean, it's simple as that. You know. So yeah, but that's my 2 cents on that. All right, Cornelius, what do we got next?
Here is an interesting question, sir. Is Arizona hip-hop controlled by Caucasian men?
White boys running AZ hip hop. All right, look, listen. First of all, let me say this, and this is probably gonna get me banned from the cookout for the weekend. Somebody needs to tell the black folks in Arizona that they live in Arizona, and that there are no black folks in Arizona. I mean, I think it's like a Richard Pryor joke that the black folks in Arizona are bussed in and then sent to prison. You know what I mean? Like, you know how Arizona says that, you know, Arizona could be the next Atlanta? Well, one, you don't want that, obviously, for obvious reasons. But two, that won't be the case because Atlanta is black. Arizona is not. It's Hispanic and retired white folks. You know what I mean? Totally different demographics out here. So, but as far as who's running quote unquote AZ hip hop, and I don't really like that that the way that's worded, because running what running the local talent shows. I mean, I don't want to get into that, but like, but the I guess you're talking about Justice and then the God, what's his name? The horse guy. Forgive me, dude. I don't know your name, but he's the white dude with AZ Way Too Active. But they have platforms that are, I would say, are the most consistent, and I use that loosely because I don't think any platforms in Arizona are consistent. The last platform that we had that was consistent as far as putting out content regarding music and around Arizona music was the Desert Coliseum, and they fucking done, I don't know, went on permanent holiday or something. I don't know. But yeah, listen, if y'all don't like that, then do something about it. Then you make the platform and you do the work. All right. But you got to understand that in order to stay consistent with the content, you have to you're gonna have to talk about a lot of topics that y'all don't want to cover. You know what I mean? For some reason, everyone's big on these relationships that really don't mean a whole lot because everybody's at the exact same level. But you're gonna have to talk about and kind of cover topics that maybe are unpopular, that might rub some folks the wrong way. But believe it or not, I believe that's what music fans in Arizona want to hear. We want to hear you talk about something new, something different. The reason why, I think there hasn't been a platform for Arizona hip hop or Arizona music that's taken off is because they've kind of recycled these topics. They've talked about the same 7, 8 people over and over and over and over. And eventually, you know what I mean? The average fan base just tuned them out. Like they didn't care anymore. Arizona hip hop doesn't have the fan base that you think, like I said, I've said it before. It's like 200 people, if that, you know what I mean? That give a shit about, Arizona music, and you're gonna have to do something about that. But understand that it ain't black people that you're trying to attract, because it ain't black folks here. You understand what I'm saying? It's Hispanic, it's white. So you're gonna have to broaden your horizon when you're talking about music. All right, you're gonna have to talk about pop. You're gonna have to talk about maybe some country, maybe some rock. Cause as long as it all funnels back into hip hop, cause that's gonna be your base. Like I said, hip hop and rap is the cool thing. You know what I mean? That kind of runs everything. That's at the center of it. But if you're gonna want to expand a fan base, you know what I mean, a listener base, you're gonna need to cover new artists. You're gonna need to cover new genres. You're gonna need to cover pretty much all the stuff that y'all have refused to cover in the past. You know what I mean? And like I said, for starters, the easiest thing would be talk about the shit that maybe y'all don't want to talk about. You know what I mean? I saw something earlier today. I think it was Jay Waves, who's dope. You know what I mean? He was, complaining that he's not on a top 10 list or whatever. And hey, somebody explained to him why he's not. You know what I mean? Like I said, I didn't make a list. I don't give a shit. It is what it is. But you can talk about, why this guy didn't make it, why that guy should have made it, why this list is invalid. Talk about those things. You know what I mean? There's no friends in this shit, yo. I don't understand why. That's one thing about the music business that I know it's an integral part of it, the relationship aspect. But where Arizona is at currently, that relationship aspect of it is doing nothing but holding you back. Right now, it's a roadblock. You know what I mean? You got to get past that. Like, everything's on the table. We can talk about everything. There are no stop signs. None of that. You know what I mean? If it's worth a conversation, if it's something that we can get, you know what I mean, a 5-minute dialogue out of, then I would advise you do that. You know what I mean? Just to try and drum up some new ears, some new eyes, some new listeners. You know what I mean? Because like I said, there's tons of topics that you could cover. You know what I mean? I just, was it recently, I guess it was Cactus Boys that canceled the show or something like that. They said it was for, the police shut it down. Well, okay, are you sure it was the police, or was it low ticket sales? Was it, it could be a lot of things. But having that conversation, even if it is, 3-4 minutes or whatever, that's what you need to build these shows around. I know we've got a couple of live streams that will look like they're talking for 2 hours, but it's probably like an hour and 45 minutes of filler, and then maybe 15 minutes of interesting conversation. And I think that if you could hone in on the interesting conversations and kind of expand that, you could turn any platform into a viable spotlight for Arizona music. You know what I mean? So that's the thing. For if you don't like who's quote unquote running the music media in Arizona, well, then do it yourself. You know what I mean? Because like I said, all you need is a camera and a microphone, and you can talk about whatever the fuck you want to talk about. You know what I mean? So I don't want to hear no more complaining about, oh, white guys are want to rap in Arizona. Ain't nobody running shit. Like, it's like taking candy from a baby if you want to. Like, you can be that guy. Just go do it. You know what I mean? It's just the amount of work you're willing to put in. All right, that's the only thing separating you from the top. That's it. But yeah, so that's my kind of 2-piece on the white guys running rap thing.
Well put, sir. But what is to be done once the inevitable war of words commences between rival platforms?
Platforms beefing. Well, I mean, look, yeah, that's kind of part of the same topic. You know what I mean? Listen, if this platform doesn't like that platform, well, then sit down and talk about it. And like I said, you don't have to talk about it with the other person. You know what I mean? Like I said, listen, everybody needs a little bit of fuckery in their life from time to time. People like reality TV shows and the drama television or whatever. Yo, you can give them that with Arizona hip hop. Yeah, I mean, we all know that there's clips that run around the drama, the gossip. It's entertaining. You know what I mean? In small doses. But yeah, if you're mad at this platform because they posted something that you didn't like, talk about it. You know what I mean? And then I would hope that that platform would then respond and talk about it. You know what I mean? No more of this too cool for school type shit. Like, nobody's above reproach. You know what I mean? Like, at this point, content is king. I think because that's a big part of promotion and just marketing right now. And like I said, if we can get the platforms kind of churning and just spitting out topics, convos, things like that, I think eventually you'll get around to the music aspect of it. I don't think Arizona knows how to talk about music, once again, because they're scared to death to step on toes and like bruise egos for some reason. But I think just through everyday conversation, you'll get to the point where it's like, hey, we have to talk about this artist. We have to talk about this song. We have to compare that guy to that guy, or this album to that album. You know what I mean? When's the last time you heard one of these platforms come out with a top 10 albums of Arizona list? You know what I mean? When's the last time you heard these platforms come out with, the 50 best songs from Arizona in the last, I don't know, 10 years or whatever? You know what I mean? For one, is I don't think, this goes back to what I said on the last episode. I don't think a lot of these people that are supposed to be in charge of music in Arizona listen to music. So I don't think they could put together 50 of the best songs in Arizona for the last 5 years, 10 years, whatever. You know what I mean? But that's kind of what I think we need to work our way up to. Being able to have those conversations. I know right now, I think it's Phoenix Hip Hop and like the Certified Savage have issues with whatever. An interesting topic is, hey, if 10 artists that fuck with that side and 10 artists that fuck with the other side, like, hey, if they got together, who would make the better album? You know what I mean? Some might say it might be lopsided, but is it not worth a discussion? Is it not something that would be interesting to talk about? Would that not lead to a lot of other avenues and combos? Oh man, that'd be really cool if this artist got with that artist, man. This side, they need to, expand their roster. They need to add some more variety, things of that nature. You know what I mean? I don't understand why Arizona media sometimes comes across as a little bit pussy. Just because you don't want to talk about nothing that matters. You know what I mean? And like I said, we're tired of hearing from the same 5-6 people. You know what I mean? Like that. Come on now. Like enough is enough. Especially when you're not talking about the shit that people would want to hear when discussing those particular individuals. So yeah, if media's beefing with each other, then you know what I mean. Where's the podcast? You know what I mean? Where's the dialogue, the clips where you're breaking this shit down? Because like I said, people are not fucking tuned in to y'all like y'all think. Like, people aren't fucking sitting around waiting for whatever platform to say whatever. Like, it's not like we're getting our music news from any particular platform in Arizona. Most of the music fans are just scouring the internet and kind of stumbling across different artists and different topics, different events, different just things that are popping up throughout the desert. You know what I mean? So yeah, it kind of goes back to what I say. Just everybody sit down and start talking. You know what I mean? And once you kind of get the words out, people will start picking shit apart, and it's gonna birth new things. You know what I mean? And something at some point is gonna work. You know what I mean? So yeah, turn the mics on and have at it.
We have what we need, sir. Excellent work.